What's going on, everyone? Today is October 9th of 2023, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the passing of Major League Baseball pitcher Jim Poole from Lou Gehrig's disease at the age of just 57. Of course, there's a lot going on in the world today. Think about how the Middle East is currently at war with Hamas attacking Israel. And that is something I'm going to be talking about either later today or early this week. Definitely going to be a busy week. Remember, today, October 9th of 2023, is the very special date that I've been talking about all year, as Yale University, home of the Skull and Bone Society, turns 322 years old. 322, the number on the emblem of the Skull and Bone Society. So it shouldn't be a surprise to viewers of my channel that the world is in chaos this week as this anniversary arrives. So we'll be talking about that at length, but there was so much fascinating numerology in the death of Jim Poole that I felt like I really needed to do a video on this. Jim Poole passed away after a battle with Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS. But the disease is more commonly named after Lou Gehrig, who was really the first major celebrity to pass away from this disease. Back in 1939, a couple years before his death, Gehrig announced his retirement in an emotional speech. We'll touch on this a little bit as well. But I just want you to think about this, how Jim Poole has died at age 57 from ALS. This is the third decode I've done in the past couple of years of someone dying at the age of 57 due to ALS. Now, earlier this week, I did a video on the death of Tim Wakefield, who died at 57 from brain cancer. But in August, I made this video, or I did this post, on the death of Brian Randall, the longtime partner of Sandra Bullock, who also died at age 57 after a battle with ALS. And what's interesting about this is I made this post on August 7th, earlier this year, and the last video on my channel talks about the death of Dick Butkus, which was connected to something else that happened in August. And you'll see on August 7th, I think, I did a post on DJ Casper. Actually, it was August 8th. That I made the post, but he died on August 7th. So I talked about this in my last video, so now we get another connection. 2 years ago, in November of 2021, running back Steve Smith from the Los Angeles Raiders died at age 57 after a nearly 20-year battle with ALS. Now, 20 years battling ALS is incredibly long, but think about the name Steve Smith. No one battled ALS for longer than Stephen Hawking, who died back on Pi Day in 2018. Stephen Hawking dying at the old age of 76. His death on Pi Day is very noteworthy, as Stephen Hawking was a physicist steeped in mathematics. On Pi Day, in a couple of years, this is the date of the next total lunar eclipse. So in this video, we're going to discuss how the death of Stephen Hawking was connected to the Pi Day eclipse, but also connected to the death of Jim Poole. So let's talk a little bit about the numerology of Jim Poole to begin with. He was born on the 28th of April, the date written 28/4 in most parts of the world, in a cipher called English Standard Gematria, which is a form of numerical study similar to ancient Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy. And in this standard 26-letter alphabet, the name Jim Poole sums to 284, matching his birthday. Now, Jim Poole played for a wide number of teams in Major League Baseball, but he's most well known for his appearance in the 1995 World Series, where he gave up the only run in one of the games. Notice how Cleveland Indians sums to 284 in the reverse alphabetic order. This cipher numbering the alphabet 1 through 26, with Z as 1, Y as 2, all the way through A as 26. And it's also curious that he appeared in the 95 World Series. In the standard alphabetic order, the name Jim Poole equals 95. He was playing for the Cleveland Indians, which equals 95, in reverse reduction. And forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I thought Atlanta Braves. Yeah, it's just the Cleveland Indians, 95. Using reverse capital letters, a cipher where we still use the alphabetic order, but mix capital letters in with the small ones. The disease ALS also equals 95. In Sumerian Gematria, which is the alphabetic order times 6, the first perfect number, significant number of time, the name Jim Poole equals 570. And this reflects the age that he and several others were when they passed away at from ALS. And why is the number 57 keep appearing in the deaths of people from Lou Gehrig's disease? Well, using the standard reduction cipher of Gematria, which is also commonly known as Pythagorean, where each double-digit number is reduced to a single digit, the name Lou Gehrig equals 57. The word moon equals 57, as the moon has a 57-degree range of declination across the equator. When Lou Gehrig passed away in 1941, he was 507 sidereal months, or lunar orbits, old. We're also going to be talking about how Jim Poole was born in Rochester, New York, and how this city has immense gematric overlap with Lou Gehrig's disease. Notice how Rochester also sums to 57 with the S exception. For good measure, Lou Gehrig's full name also matches Cleveland Indians in Gematria, but where this starts to get interesting is when you start measuring from the dates these men died and were born. Jim Poole was born 298 months after Lou Gehrig died. And when Poole passed away, he was 20,980 days old. Lou Gehrig was born on Juneteenth, the 19th of June, or 1906. As it would be written in most parts of the world. 1906 is the Latin Gematria of Rochester, New York. The Latin or Agrippa's key method of Gematria is what I say is the most significant method in virtually every single one of my videos. But not only is Rochester, New York 1906, but Jim Poole's full name in Latin Gematria, James Richard Poole, sums to 1,096, digits that again reflect the birthday of Lou Gehrig. In standard English Gematria, the name Gehrig equals 126. Jim Poole died 126 days after June 2nd, which is the date in history that Lou Gehrig passed away. Rochester, New York has reverse Sumerian Gematria of 1260. And Jim Poole died 10,206 days after the Indians lost the World Series to the Braves in 95. Now, the date of this game in 1995, when the Indians lost to the Braves, there's actually more interesting things about this date. October 28th. And real quickly, we'll talk about the 1995 World Series wrapping up in 6 games on the 28th. On that date, Jim Poole was both 183 days after his birthday and 183 days before his next birthday. In the standard alphabetic order, Lou Gehrig's disease equals 183. That game was also played 148 days after June 2nd, which was again the date Gehrig died. 148 is the ordinal value of Cleveland Indians. In the mathematical ciphers, both Gehrig equals 148, Lou Gehrig's disease also 148. These mathematical ciphers are also based in the alphabetic order, but apply various mathematical functions to the cipher. And I call these nugget ciphers. It's certainly never the centerpiece of what I'm talking about, but finds from these ciphers seem to line up with the major numbers quite often. What's also interesting about Rochester, New York, Poole's birthplace, is that it has standard gematria of 1986. This is the same Sumerian value of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is the full name of ALS. Now, in the alphabetic order, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis sums to 331. Jim Poole was born 331 days after the anniversary of Lou Gehrig's death. 331 also found in the gematria of Madden. Now, why in the world would I be talking about John Madden in relation? Well, at the beginning of this video, I talked about the death of Steve Smith back in 2021, who passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, also at the age of 57, just like Jim Poole. Well, just a few days before Steve Smith died, Madden 22 released a new digital cover featuring Bo Jackson from the Los Angeles Raiders. Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders. Bo Jackson shared a backfield with Marcus Allen, and Bo Jackson was well known not just for being a two-sport athlete, but for being one of the best video game running backs of all time in Tecmo Super Bowl. At the time, when Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen played for the Raiders, Steve Smith was the fullback for that backfield. He would be blocking for both guys. And he died just a couple days after this cover came out. And then John Madden ended up dying a month later. So all of this is actually very connected, and if you've seen my work on Madden, you know it's connected all to the Raiders, as John Madden coached the Raiders to their first Super Bowl victory. Notice how the name Steve Smith has matching 41 gematria with Madden, and Madden was even born on 4/10, a date like 41. The name Jim Poole also equals 41. This was the year that Lou Gehrig died. And again, this may seem obscure to tie John Madden into this, but look at the name John Earl Madden and how it has matching base gematria with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, and Lou Gehrig. Jim Poole died 647 days after John Madden died. The number 647 is a prime number, divisible only by 1 and itself. And you'll see here it's the 118th prime number. Well, Jim Poole was born on the 118th day of the year. The words death and homicide, both 118 in Latin. But more importantly, is that Lou Gehrig's full name, Henry Louis Gehrig, sums to 1018. Gehrig would have been 1,108 months old when Jim Poole played in the World Series. But there's more that ties these two together. The name Henry Louis Gehrig sums to 232 in reverse gematria. In the standard cipher of gematria, John Madden equals 232. In fact, the name Madden sums to 232 in trigonal. This brings us to Stephen Hawking, the big Pi Day death. Hawking died 2,032 days before Jim Poole. And check out how old Stephen Hawking was when he died. Notice the 824 in his age, 27,824 days old. Well, in Latin Gematria, the name Jim Poole equals 824. There's more that connects Madden to this. Measuring from the death of Stephen Hawking to John Madden, we get a span of exactly 198 weeks. Now, this is significant because in Sumerian Gematria, the alphabetic order times 6, Lou Gehrig's disease equals 1098. And when Lou Gehrig died, he was 1980 weeks old. So again, Hawking dies on Pi Day. Again, Stephen, just like Stephen Smith. Stephen Hawking was born a span of 31 weeks and 4 days after Lou Gehrig died. So from June 2nd of 1941 to Stephen Hawking's birth, this is 31 weeks and 4 days, right? And then he dies on Pi Day. Jim Poole, meanwhile, he was born 314 days after Lou Gehrig's birthday. Now, why is this so important? Well, there's a couple reasons. First, I want to talk about the number 1776, which you may recognize as America's birth year. When you take all the different permutations of pi and add them together, the same 3 digits with all various possible arrangements, you add these all together and you get a sum of 1776. And when Jim Poole lost the World Series, check out his age on that date, October 28th of 1995. 1776. And what also stood out here is that this speech that Lou Gehrig gave, where he says this:
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
When you write this phrase out in Gematria, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Notice this value of 776. A lot like this 10776. But if we actually measure from the date of that speech, which was on July 4th, Independence Day, remember the first Independence Day in 1776, measuring from that date to the death of Jim Poole gives us another 776. Which I just thought was so interesting. And then this phrase also has reduction gematria of 223. And, well, what year are we in? Of course, we're in 2023. So with all this talk of pi and circles, what better encapsulates a circle and a pi riddle than a Pi Day eclipse? Mathematics of the circle has this very special gematria of 666. So does mathematical perfection, 666. I thought it was interesting that Pi Day eclipse also sums to 666. When you write out 666, you get the 314th prime number, the first 3 digits of pi. Remember, on your keyboard, if you're on a Windows computer, it's Alt 227 that gives you the digits of pi. 22 divided by 7 will also do this on a calculator. 3.14, this is the smallest equation you can use, and in Gematria, 22 divided by 7 equals 314. So this language of mathematics and circles are embedded into our language and our world. The word eclipse has this 314. This eclipse, this special Pi Day eclipse, is in the year 2025. And notice how the name Poole sums to 225. But what I also like about this eclipse is that it's the year 25. And in Gematria, the word pi sums to 25. In reduction, pi equals 16. Very similar to the date that Jim Poole died, 10/6, which has that 1/6. Measuring from the death of Jim Poole to the Pi Day eclipse in 2025 is a span of 1 year, 160 days. This is that upside-down 9/11. The names Hawking and Gehrig both have this 116 in Gematria. Notice how Stephen Hawking died exactly 84 months before that Pi Day total lunar eclipse. Total lunar eclipse equals 804. Lou Gehrig's disease equals 84 and 840. Jim Poole's home of Rochester, New York, 84. Steve Smith and Madden, both with 84 Gematria as well. A very significant number to the moon and the sun is 108. Both the moon and the sun are 108 times their own diameter from Earth. The sun even 108 Earths wide. The phrases full moon and geometry, both with double values of 108. 108 is a lot like the birthday of Stephen Hawking, January 8th. And in Gematria, the name Gehrig equals 108. So does mathematics of the circle. 108. And now we get the death of Poole, whose name does have Gematria of 18. And Poole died exactly 18 weeks after the anniversary of Lou Gehrig's death. So we talked about this Pi Day eclipse in 2025. 1 year, 160 days. Well, this is also 526 days. Now, this is a number I used to talk about in connection with lunar eclipses. This all comes from Revelation 6:12 in the King James Bible. Revelation 6:12 is the only Bible verse that mentions both a solar and lunar eclipse. And when you run the gematria of this Bible verse, it sums to 526. You have the moon becoming black as a sackcloth, the sun becoming black as a sackcloth of hair, the moon becoming as blood, like a lunar eclipse. And remember back in 2021, we had this very special eclipse on May 26th. And this was the year 2021. And this Bible verse has reverse gematria of 2210, the same digits. Anyway, the name Poole in Fibonacci numbers sums to 526. Dead 526 days before this special lunar eclipse. I'm also curious, I don't think this aligns, but did he die in connection to this eclipse? I don't think so. We also need to check out how this connects to the two great American total solar eclipses in 2017 and 2024. Poole died 2,238 days after the first one and 185 days before the second. Well, the name Poole has gematria of 238 and 185. When Jim Poole died, Stephen Hawking would have been exactly 1,011 lunar phases old. 111. And that stood out because Poole's hometown of Rochester equals 111, which is a number shared with ALS in Latin, 111. Lou Gehrig's disease, 111 with the S exception. Remember, Poole played for the Cleveland Indians, 1101. This is connected to Madden 111. His death was also a span of 110 days after Lou Gehrig's birthday, June 19th. And both Henry Louis Gehrig and ALS equal 110. Finally, to wrap this up, Stephen Hawking, whose name sums to 212, was born exactly 2012 weeks after Lou Gehrig. Stephen William Hawking has matching 328 gematria with Lou Gehrig's disease. And when you measure from the birth of Lou Gehrig to Jim Poole, you get exactly 3,280 weeks. So there's so many things tying all these characters together. Just really blew my mind. One more thing. We were talking a little bit about the number 666. Since this was all connected to the Pi Day eclipse. 666. Well, when you measure from the death of Lou Gehrig to the birth of Jim Poole, you get 9,096 days. The name Gehrig in reverse standard gematria sums to 999. And Lou Gehrig died 699 days after his retirement speech in that New York Yankees outfit. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching live or archived. Please feel free to share, like, subscribe. And if you'd like to support the work, please check the links in the description below. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.